Hello everyone, this is David, and tonight's movie that we watched is the 2001 movie Beneath Loch Ness. Now, this movie has some interesting things about it, and also some issues. It falls into a very strange vein of um, Loch Ness Monster horror films. Now, pretty much everyone is familiar with the concept of the Loch Ness Monster being one of the most popular cryptids in existence, next to Bigfoot. However, it's a lot harder to adapt as a horror setting than, say, like Bigfoot has been. There's tons of Bigfoot and Sasquatch horror movies out there. Lake monsters, they exist, but like specifically Loch Ness Monster, harder to adapt, and for a couple reasons. First of all, Loch Ness is kind of a remote spot. It's, in northern Scotland, and not a lot of people go there. Well, I mean, people go there, but it's, it's remote. It's not like a summer vacation place. It's very scenic, but other than that, like, it's hard to get to and whatnot. Also, people have been living on the loch for thousands of years, as far as I'm aware. A very long time. And, there's only, as far as I'm aware, one incident where the monster has been considered to be attacking someone, and that dates back to I want to say 1200 AD or something like that. Long, long ago, certainly before the modern era, before even the Renaissance. Really, it was old timey stuff. Might have been even before that. I don't remember the lore myself terribly well, but so you got to take a lot on faith in that. And other than that, in the modern day, there's been no attacks as far as I'm aware. I mean, I'm sure if someone got attacked in the loch, that'd be a big deal. Now, like I said, it's been adapted a few times, or several times actually, over the years. This is just the latest in the line of, let's go to Loch Ness, check it out. Now, for what's worth, I'm pretty sure this film actually takes place on the loch, or if it doesn't, they do a pretty good job of faking it. So that's good. And I suppose we should talk about Nessie in this film itself. So it turns out the Loch Ness Monster, as we know it, is not the monster in the movie. No, the monster that's killing people in this movie is a different monster who feeds on the Loch Ness Monster. Go figure that out, right? So it's not even Nessie that's killing people. It's this other thing. I think they call it at some point like a Chronosaurus or something like that. I don't think it's a Chronosaurus. It doesn't look like a Chronosaurus, as far as I'm aware. I mean, it's a big sea monster, but Chronosaurus is just a giant mosasaur, if I remember correctly. And this thing really doesn't look like a mosasaur. It just kind of looks like a, put together CGI creature that's attacking. So that's another issue with the film, is that you set a film in Scotland, or specifically at Loch Ness, to be about the Loch Ness Monster, and then it's not actually about the Loch Ness Monster. Wow. That's impressive. That's impressive that you could do that. Now, let's get to this movie. So basically, there's this old guy, Gus, and he's diving in Loch Ness. He's at the bottom, and apparently pretty far down because it's pitch black. I mean, I know Loch Ness is a very murky lake to begin with, but still. So he's down at the bottom of this thing. There's an earthquake that happens. He vanishes. No one's really sure what happened. They assume that he died in the ensuing earthquake / seismic activity, which is another strange thing that happens. As far as I'm aware, that area isn't terribly seismically active. The plate, the Mid-Atlantic plate is called that for a reason. It's in the Mid-Atlantic, or whatever you want to call it. So as far as I'm aware, there shouldn't be a ton of seismic activity right along there. I mean, little stuff, sure, but in terms of big enough to crack open the earth and open up chasms, no, certainly not. And that's what happens. He gets swept into this, and so he dies, and his team continues to come in. His team comes in and examines everything, and they're shooting basically a documentary on the loch, trying to prove that the Loch Ness Monster was actually a ocean going thing that would like commute from the ocean to the loch, and or at the very least did at some point. So their investigation's going, and meanwhile, they're looking into this, and the sheriff's looking into this, or he's not actually a sheriff, he's a constable, and he's a very ornery man. He doesn't want to hear guff from nobody, and when people start disappearing because there's a thing going on, he doesn't want to hear any of this crazy stuff. So they're investigating stuff, and a bunch of kids fake a Nessie sighting for basically like their website. They fake out like a Loch Ness monster tour, but it turns out the Kronosaurus is cruising on by and kills one of the people that was like making the cutout that they had move. So he gets dragged under the boat. So the Kronosaurus swims under the boat, and they film that, and then they film the body floating by under the boat, which is kind of, whatever. It's poorly done, but fine. So now they got a death in their hands, and the constable's just like, nah, they faked it. It was a boating accident, Jaws style. Because in any movie where you have an aquatic menace, there has to be some official who just doesn't buy into any of it, who outranks whatever the characters that are saying it exists is. So the classic case of this is Jaws, where the sheriff is saying we got a shark problem, and the mayor's saying sweep it under the rug. Don't make a big deal about this. So this goes back and forth for a while, and some more fishermen go missing. Now this is another thing. Apparently this is common in this movie, but I don't think this is very common in actuality. Apparently there's a bunch of people, a bunch of the fishermen on the loch, yeah, that's kind of weird, engage in dynamite fishing. It's not actually dynamite, but it's like something akin to that. So they use some sort of explosive. And for one, if you're a fisherman on Loch Ness, you're probably not in a very good line of work, because Loch Ness pretty much has like Arctic char and I think like 2 other species of fish, maybe more, maybe a couple more, but like in terms of biodiversity, it doesn't have a lot. And that's one of the key factors behind people saying that there is no Loch Ness monster, is what's it eating? This lake doesn't have a thriving ecosystem. It has eels, Arctic char, and occasionally like a seal or a sea lion would come in from the coast, and that's about it. There's probably some other fish in there too that I'm not familiar with, but those are the big ones, and even then, like, there isn't a lot to deal with. So there's people dynamite fishing effectively. That pisses off the Kronosaurus, and it comes in and kills all the people. And meanwhile, the divers find the boat of this other guy, this Ahab type character, who lost his son long ago, 15 years ago, when the Kronosaurus was kicking around then. And they dynamite fished too close to it, and it got pissed off and killed the son, sank the boat, that kind of stuff. So now he's like this old drunk who wants to hunt down Nessie. Except it's not really Nessie. So, anyway, the dynamite fishing actually inadvertently kills a Loch Ness monster. Actually, no, that's not what kills it. That just pisses him off. Sorry, I'm getting off track. The Kronosaurus does kill a plesiosaur, and it washes up, and they find it, and there's like a big press release about how they actually have the Loch Ness monster, and like the crew sneaks in because the sheriff won't let them take pictures. They sneak in, they take some samples, they run off, and they find out that this isn't the thing that's been killed. Like, obviously this was murdered by something. Something took a big bite out of it, and whatever it is pretty big. So long story short, unfortunately, the Captain Ahab guy goes down, takes the diving gear, goes down underwater, the main character guy who's been arrested by the sheriff, gets out of jail, goes down, helps him out, and they fight off the Kronosaurus, and Ahab dies, the Kronosaurus is theoretically killed, and yeah, that's the way the movie kind of ends. They have this really cool documentary, and they're heading on out. Although, allegedly, I think they find like some eggs that they take back with them, which is a thing that they don't really develop anything on. But at the end of the day, like that's this movie. It's kind of boring in parts, and you don't get enough of the monster. I mean, it's just kind of cruising around doing whatever. There's a newer version of this that I think does it a lot better, and I believe that's called Beyond Loch Ness. It's still not a very good movie by any means, but it's better than this one, Beneath Loch Ness. It deals with a similar situation, except that monster actually is like a plesiosaur type creature, as opposed to this weird mosasaur like creature. Um, at the end of the day, though, I'm gonna give this 2 out of 5. It's okay. It's not offensive. It's not terrible. It wasn't a chore to watch, but neither was it great or amazing or all that well done. It's just kind of, it's below middle of the road. It's not great. I don't really recommend it too heavily. Watch it if you like watching Loch Ness Monster movies, or you like watching aquatic adventure horror, anything like that. But the scares really don't exist. That you don't really feel like there's any tension. Not really. The sheriff slash constable guy, he's kind of like in the same guy as in every movie, which is kind of annoying. When you see this trope done like that, it just kind of grates on you, because you know there's a monster running around, but at the same time, whenever the sheriff kind of buys into it, it's refreshing. Excuse me. It's refreshing to see a sheriff that actually like wants to listen to people and not sweep things under the rug for other people. So doesn't happen very often, but it has been known to happen. Anyway, 2 out of 5 stars. It's a very meh kind of movie. Check it out if you feel like it, but I'm not going to say go out and this is not a need to watch. All right, folks. Good night.